government forces stop militia attack in Saada. The new United Nations envoy faces challenges as he starts his mission. Houthis target Yemeni children and send them to death. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shaza Abdelbey. The government forces stopped a Houthi attack in Al-Mashda'a in Saada. The commander of the 3rd Brigade said that a group of Houthis tried to infiltrate and attack the government forces and push them back, causing deaths and injuries. He added that the remaining Houthi fled the government forces, according to the commander, targeted with the artillery fire the reinforcements of the Houthis and destroyed the military vehicles that were on their way back to the infiltrating groups. To Ma'rib, the Arab coalition fighter jets bombed a meeting for Houthi leaders in Rahba. The medical center belonging to the Yemeni government forces indicated that the airstrike killed all Houthi leaders who were attending the meeting. The strike destroyed 5 engines with those on board. Houthi rebels are helplessly trying to score any military achievement to increase their political gains on any coming peace talks, even if this escalation is at the expense of innocent civilians. Their latest ram-ups in Ma'rib and Al-Bayda come in this context. Here is more on that story.
The recent Houthi escalation in Ma'rib and Al-Bayda left humanitarian disasters on the Yemenis. The situation alerted the international circles that a continuation of fighting in these areas will push many to the brink of starvation. The Houthi escalation has produced catastrophic repercussions, even at the economic level. It caused the displacement of thousands who left behind their sources of livelihood, while the historical collapse of the Yemeni currency exchange rate against the dollar caused a staggering rise in the prices of food and most basic goods. The citizen is no longer able to earn his living due to the war brought about by the Houthis on all Yemenis. The International Rescue Committee in its latest report warned against the aggravation of famine in Yemen due to the escalation of violence and the devaluation of the currency to its lowest historical level. It noted that the collapse of the exchange rate made it impossible for the ordinary citizen to obtain the basic necessities that keep him alive. According to reports of the committee, people who have stable jobs are struggling to buy food because their income can only buy a small part of what they need. The war in Yemen has pushed people from one displacement camp to another. They are close to starvation in light of the weak government rule and in light of their dependence on humanitarian aid.
Ma'rib Office for Human Rights documented more than 14,000 Houthi violations against civilians and public and private properties during the past 6 years. Houthi violations include a number of 650 killings for civilians. Among them, 146 were killed by Houthi mines in Ma'rib. The office documented about 470 deaths for civilians in shelling that targeted their homes in Ma'rib. As to injuries among civilians, the report documented more than 1,500 injuries. According to the report, Houthis deported about 9,000 families from different areas in Ma'rib. Sources in the Yemeni capital Sana'a reported the Houthi militia intend to replace new cadres in the national security. The sources added that the Houthi are determined to replace those national cadres with security members aligned to them to Houthinize the Yemeni national security and the national political security. According to the same sources, Houthis will sack more than 150 employees in the national security in the coming period that will be replaced with members who were trained by the Iranian intelligence. The world awaits the new United Nations envoy whose mandate will be to find a swift path to peace where no obvious one exists. This path is more likely to be a long, hard slog that requires a renewed focus on laying the groundwork for sustainable peace. The following report looks into the potential challenges awaiting Hans Gridberg's mission.
With the appointment of a new UN Special Envoy to Yemen, peace seems as elusive as ever. 6.5 years after Houthi rebels pushed the government out of the capital Sana'a, one of the worst humanitarian crises has left thousands displaced and dead, many from lack of food and medical care. This recent move in international political will and the Omani intervention seem to put more pressure on Houthis to bring them to the negotiating table. The new envoy's team will therefore inherit a seemingly intractable situation. They may be able to reinterpret their mandate in ways that open up new moves, but rearranging the puzzle pieces sufficiently to enable a quick deal seems unlikely. Omani action and international political will are not the only factors that have changed in the past year. The overall context in Yemen has shifted. The Houthi rebels ramped up their fight in Ma'rib and increased their missile and drone attacks on Saudi territory. Against this backdrop, Saudi Arabia has offered major concessions such as easing restrictions on Hodeidah port and opening Sana'a airport to some destinations. Yet, the Houthis haven't budged, perhaps aiming to leverage the international community's obvious desire for a quick deal into further gains at little cost to themselves. For example, they have framed the port and airport issues as humanitarian matters in order to separate them from the ceasefire discussions, arguing that they should not have to concede much, if anything, to get those facilities open. Amid this stalemate, Oman sent a delegation to meet with the Houthis in Sana'a, an unusual move because Muscat typically serves as a facilitator but deliberately avoids being a mediator. Why have the Omanis suddenly embraced shuttle diplomacy, a style more often associated with Kuwait? More likely, they have concluded that the war will eventually threaten their national security more directly. Whatever spurred in the Omani trip, it didn't result in a deal. This was unsurprising. Negotiators have often complained that deals made with the Houthis in Muscat tend to get curbed in Sana'a. The worst effects are rooted in the country's economic situation, particularly its currency crisis and lack of salaries. Although food is available on grocery store shelves, most Yemenis are unable to afford it, and services remain poor or non-existent because the government is unable to fully operate inside the country. Meanwhile, the Houthi militia offensive in Ma'rib is raising fears for a refugee crisis. The world awaits the new envoy whose mandate will be able to find a swift path to peace where no obvious one exists. The path is more likely to be a long, hard slog that requires a renewed focus on laying the groundwork for sustainable peace.
Moving to Ib, the center of Yemen, local sources said that a Houthi militant killed a displaced boy aged 10 years old who works as a seller in front of Al Thawra Public Hospital. The sources said that the boy was quickly rushed to the hospital to save his life, but all in vain. Houthi rebels are accused of brainwashing children and sending them to different frontiers. Field reports and media confessions made by the Houthi militia confirm the high number of children killed in suicide attacks in the absence of any action taken by the international community and child protection organization. The following report has more details.
They are not children. They know nothing about the feeling of a child who lives normally in a stable country. They know not the joy, happiness, and innocence that fill the heart of a little child who plays and thinks only about toys. All they know in the war-ravaged country is the resonance of bombs, the rattling of strikes, and the redness of blood. This fact is seen by the eyes of the Yemeni boys and girls. They get into a war that had nothing to give them but fear. They even are used by the Houthis to stoke and prolong the war. They are brainwashed and forced to a battlefield. They do not understand anything about it. Yemeni children are used as human shield in the war fronts. Human rights related reports accounted that Houthis are recruiting children in war. My own report on childhood in Yemen for the past half of the year documented that 640 children were killed aging 13 to 17 after being recruited by the Houthi militias. The Human Rights Organization reported the killing of 333 children in the past 6 months, especially in Sana'a, Zimar, and Hajjah. Adding to those killed, Mune documented about 3,400 injuries among children in Yemen. A number of 155 children from those who have been killed were awarded military ranks. All these facts show that Houthi rebels are conducting brainwashing campaign against Yemeni innocent children.
Coming next, UNICEF confirms Yemen need urgent educational assistance.
بأي حق الحوثي يقصف علينا هنا على منازلنا وإحنا نازحين؟ بأي حق؟ هذا ولا بحق الإنسانية.
الأمم المتحدة يجون على هذا الدمار والخراب. الآن أصبحنا بلا مأوى. فين نروح؟ الحوثة لم يخلونا ننام ولا نستقر في بيوتنا.
بأي ذنب يقتلوا الأطفال والنساء وهم في بيوتهم آمنين؟ يا أصحاب المصيرة الشيطانية اتقوا الله في الناس.
Welcome back. Child labor increased in Houthi-controlled areas in light of the ignorance from international organizations to provide complete statistics.
Although the child labor in Yemen is not new, it has increased significantly amidst the war. Also, the growth of poverty and unemployment, where 80% of the population lives on relief aid. In Sana'a and other cities under the control of the Houthi militia, children spread out at street intersections to sell water and tissue papers to collect what is possible to support their families. Likewise, most of the stores, shops, and restaurants are not free of employment between the ages of 10 and 15, as well as for street vendors. The conditions are different for those who were forced to leave their schools and search for job opportunity, with the United Nations confirming that 2 million Yemeni children do not attend school. This number is likely to increase significantly due to the growing poverty, unemployment, and the inability of families to provide school supplies, or because children have become part of the responsibility to support their families. These numbers increase even more among females, as many families tend to stop females from attending schools to save part of school costs. Despite the widespread of child labor, the international parties and the militia do not provide complete statistics on this, which threatens the future of this generation, males and females.
Surprisingly enough, the Ministry of Education has announced the New Year school to start by mid of this month, in advance to each year's school calendar. According to UNICEF, said that 8 million Yemeni children are in dire need of urgent educational assistance.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, said on Sunday, August 8, 2021, that 8 million Yemeni children need emergency educational assistance. The organization said this is a huge increase compared to 1.1 million children before the war. The organization also stressed the war must stop so the children can live their childhood without further details. The organization's tweet comes after the decision made by the Ministry of Education to start the school calendar 2021-2022 on the 15th of August, earlier than the regular date of each year. Opinions vary, as the public see that this decision can affect the educational attainment of students at various levels. But officials in the Ministry of Education agree with the decision. An early period for a new academic year, which calls for directing all educational staff to seize this opportunity and work to invest it in a way that serves the educational process. While in early July, UNICEF reported that more than 2 million children of school age are currently out of school in Yemen. The report stated that 2/3 of the teaching staff did not receive their payrolls. As for the past 4 years, more than 3,600 children have been recruited regularly. A war overshadowed strongly the different aspects of Yemen. Educational sector is not an exception, where it was affected severely.
The University of Taz organized a training course to improve quality of educational staff. The training course aimed at achieving the university's policy to foster academic development in the educational process through building quality systems. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. Government forces stop militia attack in Sada. Challenges face the new appointed envoy as he starts his mission. Houthis target children and drive them to join battlefronts. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.